Hi, I'm Carolyn Cole from the Eastern Shoveltown Cultural District, and I'm here to present our fourth video commentary of local artists. Today we have with us Kris Ventresco from Starlight Photography. If you're a senior citizen like myself and you go back and remember the energy you had 25 years ago, this is the kind of energy that Kris puts into his work, and it's very apparent. Kris, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Our first series of photographs are from July 4th, right?
Yes. Every year, well, for the past few years, I photographed the 4th of July concert at the Hat Shell. I've had media credentials to stage access to photograph the Boston Pops, headlining acts such as Rascal Flatts, Toby Keith, Dropkick Murphys, and Jennifer Hudson. So these are some of the photographs that I've taken upstage, up close with WBZ as well as the Boston Globe.
Now, who is this playing right now? Don't forget, we have to remember my age. So
the one to the right is Rascal Flatts,
yeah,
and the one to the left is Toby Keith.
Great. So now if we go into a totally different area, but in another city photography, is New York.
Yes, this photograph was actually taken up atop the Empire State Building. And my wife and I had actually visited for the day, and when we got to New York City, it was all overcast, cloudy, and I took this photo. You cannot just not take a picture when you're atop the Empire State Building.
Absolutely.
So I took the photograph, and I was very unpleased with the photograph in color. And then once I started doing a little bit of post-processing, it ended up turning to be one of my favorite photographs, because I converted it to sepia, or more of like a brown tone, to bring back some of the old school formulas.
It's great.
Thank you.
Now this I know is local, because I know
Yes.
this area. Now where is this?
This was taken at Borderland.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here in Easton, on the line of Easton and Sharon. And this photograph, I always like to use different types of techniques to create my imagery. And this one was, I actually dragged the shutter speed and aperture to really blur the water, to make it look silky smooth. And then I always look at composition. You know, anyone can take a photograph wide and for more landscape, but I always look to add a little bit of depth to it, so that's why I actually brought in a little bit of the fence right there. Actually, it's a little bridge with the fence.
This is why this looks more like a painting.
Yes.
If if I didn't know it was a photograph, I would think it was painted.
Yes, and that effect is commonly used in paintings, not as much with photographs, and that's why I always like to use it. It distinguishes myself.
Right, absolutely. Now this is just absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Yep, this photograph is near and dear to my heart. This is actually the spot where I proposed to my wife, and she said yes. And this is actually in Federal Hill, located the Italian section of Rhode Island and Providence. And it's going to be included in a compilation album that I'm putting together. It's going to be a hardcover book. And it's going to be about the Italian heritage in Boston and Providence. So this spot, once you go to Federal Hill, and there's a big piazza, and that's actually where this photograph was taken.
Now this is cute. This is cute. Where is this? The ducks.
This is a favorite, yes. This was actually in Boston Common, and it's titled Make Way for Duckling, and it is a limited edition that we offer in our gallery at Starlight Photography. And this was actually included in a book titled Boston Images That Tell History. And I was also looking for a different creative view, so I actually went up atop the ducks and shot down to capture all the little ducklings.
It's really hysterical, because it looks as though the mother is talking.
Yes.
It looks like she's speaking to you.
And always when there's a Red Sox parade, a Bruins parade, Celtics, they always come out and they decorate the Ducks with the uniforms. So it's a favorite spot amongst people in Boston.
Now we move on to these two that are kind of like very, very different in style.
Very different, but somewhat similar, because they're both taken on islands. The one to the right was taken in Bermuda, and I was just taking a landscape photograph, and that's actually the Chamber of Commerce building located in Hamilton, which is their capital. And just as I took the picture, the gentleman walked right through. And it actually added a little bit of that drama to my photograph that I wanted to capture. Because I always look for shadows and highlights, and there's a lot of shadow, a lot of texture to the photograph, and then once he stepped in, I knew that was going to be a favorite.
And this obviously is a story in this, but it also is another one that almost looks like a painting.
Yes. Yep. When I add my effects to my pictures, a lot of them start to look more along the painterly effect. But that was actually taken in Nantucket, and this was actually taken at a brewery/winery. And I saw the old Nantucket. Well, actually, it's a new bike, but I created the old feel to it with the sepia tone.
Great. And of course this one.
This is my claim to fame, Frozen Fenway. This picture was taken at Fenway Park for the Collegiate Hockey East game that took place in January. And this was the first time that hockey was played in Fenway. Well, the Bruins played first, but for college it was the first time. So the Red Sox hired me to take this photograph, and there was not one person in the stadium, and I took the photograph from the press box.
It captures the city behind it too, in a very interesting way. It's, you know, kind of like coming out of the shadows.
Yes, and I've seen similar photographs, and I look very closely when I Google it, Frozen Fenway, just to see what pops up. And there are similar photographs that look almost identical, but I had a lot of drama with the clouds. And that's what separates the photos, because I had to look twice to see if that was my picture. But the clouds make it, the skyscapes, everything just fell into place. And this was actually taken through glass.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people, you can't even tell that, you know, it just looks like we were outdoors. So.
And now we go back to another New York picture.
Yep. A lot in New York and Boston. I love both cities, and also similar but different in many ways. And this was actually taken at John Lennon's Memorial in Central Park. And 24/7, they have someone out there playing Strawberry Fields in dedication to him. And this spot is actually located directly across from his apartment in New York City, the Dakotas. And they always change this spot, like the flowers. They have rose petals there, but then they change it up constantly. And luckily, I had the apple out there, and I've seen different pictures where they've had different items, but I really like the apple. And this was actually taken with a fisheye lens. There are a lot of tourists in the area, so it was tough to capture the image that I wanted. So I brought my fisheye lens out, and I went very close and up top, and that's what I captured this, and then I cropped it in close to get the feel that the feeling of the photograph that I wanted.
Now this is very interesting. I'm not sure where that is.
That's actually at the JFK Library in Boston. And I was photographing a conference for a major corporation, and they allowed me to go around and take pictures of the JFK Library to put into their collection. And I went downstairs, and all of a sudden I see the flag up top, and it caught my eye. So I actually captured this as the sun was setting, and it really made it a cool effect.
I've been there many times for lectures, but it kind of like it's very different. I wouldn't have recognized it.
Yeah, there are a lot of photographs taken from up top, and they crop in right here, but from upstairs. So that's what really caught my eye, is when I went downstairs and I was shooting up this time, and it gave it a completely different look.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And our second section of this video commentary is going to be going to Kris's studio, and you're going to see a little bit more formal art there as well.
Yes.
And so we're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. We're here with the second segment of Kris Ventresco's video commentary. We're at his studio, which was founded by his father, John, and now John and Kris work as a team.
Yes, well, thank you for having me again. What I figured I would do today is just kind of go through some of the stories behind our photographs, as well as the style. And I always like to start with the little old ladies here. The print is titled Tuscan Pastime, and my dad took that photograph in Siena, Italy, and it was taken just as is. No setting up, posing. It was all as was, and all the little old ladies, they all tell their own little story behind the photograph. The second lady from the left wanted absolutely nothing to do with the picture. And you could tell that some of the ladies loved having their picture taken, and then others just wanted nothing to do with it. So Tuscan Pastime was internationally recognized by the Professional Photographers of America, and the print has actually been in publications such as Rangefinder, which is one of our professional photography trade magazines, as well as PPA's Loan Collection, which is the top gun of our industry for photographers and their prints that merit internationally. And this is actually one of the clips that was published in Rangefinder magazine. And then I always like to go to Borderland State Park, and we actually photographed a bride on her, well, actually her wedding day. It was 70 degrees out on a January Saturday, and she was so bummed because she had bought a cape for her wedding day. And luckily, 2 days after her wedding, we had a session scheduled to go to Borderland State Park. And there we had access to the interior and exterior of the mansion to photograph her and her husband for a 2 to 3 hour session. And luckily, it snowed, and she was so excited, and it's a print that we're going to actually be entering into competition. And then one thing that we are really enjoying doing with our photographs is converting them to black and white. And that really tells, it adds a little drama to the photographs. So actually on this wall, we have a series here of 3 images, and they all add that timeless feel to the photographs. And we do a lot of photojournalistic style. We add that to our unique style of obviously the traditional photographs, the contemporary, and the photojournalistic. And that's what makes us unique in the photography industry, because we can go with the flow and switch modes to what's happening around us. So take, for example, the bride and groom. This was taken in the North End, and right across the street from the Paul Revere statue. And I just had I guided them into what I wanted the picture to come across. And as they were walking around, they actually had the classic car as their limo, and all the guests, I love looking at the emotions and expressions coming from their guests. And also, vintage Nantucket, which was actually hanging at ECAT, we add the black and whites and sepias, and between the two, it really adds to that timeless piece of art. And then over here, to add a little bit more of that photojournalistic style, we have Independence, which was taken during the 4th of July concert at the Hat Show. And this print actually was awarded a merit towards my Master's of Photography. And everyone thinks that that was a painting, but that was as is out of camera. All I did was tweak it a little bit for color and add a little bit more pop to the saturation. And this was actually acknowledged in international competition. And then the print to the right of it, to the left of it, is a series that we did. It was a group of 5 girls, and they were actually all graduating from URI, and they wanted to have one last photograph to really celebrate their graduation. So this was taken on a beach, and I found this old rustic, torn down building, and I was able to spin it around. All the good light was on the other side of the wall, and with a reflector I was able to pop all the light into their faces, and they actually loved this photograph. They all have a copy of it framed in their dens. And then going back to the black and white, this was actually done in our studio here, and what I did was, it's Sisterly Love is the title, and these 3 girls photographed very well, and just the picture was awesome in color, but when I added that black and white effect to it, it really made the image pop. We have in the studio, we have a very classical background that some of the old painters and very well-known photographers have used. And to add a little bit more impact to those photographs, we add a classical soft focus filter onto all of our photographs taken up in the studio. And that soft focus is actually done with the camera. It's not done in post-production or with Photoshop, but it's all done in camera. So that's something unique that we do. These 2 photographs actually show it off very well, and it just adds a little bit pop to our photographs. This photograph was taken during a fall wedding, and it absolutely poured out on her wedding day. So we actually did a whole series of photographs, more formal, with just the bride at her parents' house. And what I like to do is I like to have a lot of drama shown through in my imagery. So with this photograph, I used just one video light to create all that dark shadow on one side of her face, which adds that depth to the image. And we look for the shadows to be in very specific places, and this is something that we have studied a lot, and it's showing through in all of our photographs. And this is something that is new and hot in the wedding photography industry, and it's a lot of fun to create. The photograph up top is actually also little tricks of the camera that we do with brides and grooms, and this was actually taken at Oaks Ames Hall here in Easton. And everyone thinks that this blue is done all in Photoshop, and that's actually all done in camera. So what we do is we just, it has to be taken at the right time of day, and whatever our light is focused on, our subject stays in its true color, and everything else turns blue around it. And then I just enhance it a little bit in Photoshop. So it's just another cool effect that we do, and brides and grooms are loving it because it's not something that you see every day.
Thank you so much, Kris. I think we can really get a feel for the different qualities of photographer and the different styles that we wouldn't normally see. And I'm glad that we came to the studio.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
You're welcome. And thank you for watching us.
Thank you.